Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode here at Catholic Cable Talk Podcast. This is the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table. What's again for this week? Thank you again for joining us for today's episode is 123. So thank you for that. All your continued support. If you have a show or a speaker request or want to become a sponsor of the show, please email us. It's probably the best way to get a hold of us, the fastest way. CatholicTT@gmail.com. Again, it's Catholic2Ts@gmail.com is the official email of Catholic Table Talk Podcast. Also, for everyone who is new to the show, new episodes drop every single Thursday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on most podcast platforms. So, yeah, plenty of archives to check out. All right, so we got a very special guest this week, and we're going to talk about another book here on this week's show. It's kind of been a theme lately, and basically, when this episode drops, we're listening to it more in the future or when it drops. We're on our way to like the middle of October. Holiday season's coming up, and this is a great book. I think you should get your husband, maybe a new dad, maybe give to your young adult son. It's called 12 Rules of Manliness. It's from Bear Woznick, and he's an EWTN radio host. So glad to have him on the show. And like I said, this is a very, very deep, enriching book about how to become, I believe, to become a better man, head of the household. And let's bring Bear in now. So Bear Woznick. So Bear, thank you for spending your time today with us to talk about your book.
Hey, Bill, it's good to be with you. I know we were talking briefly about you're up there in Minnesota, that beautiful fall weather, the fall colors, and I'm here in Waikiki Beach, so we're kind of like two
Right.
different places. I'm looking out at the ocean right now. It's sun is just coming up here,
Okay.
and just beautiful, small kind waves today, but just really beautiful.
Right.
We know
It's
it's fall. We know it's fall when the wave window moves from the south and starts moving over towards the north.
oh sure.
The big storms that send it tend to be up in the Alaska area, that during the winter.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's a good day to count your blessings and thank God for a beautiful day, that's for sure.
Yeah, praise
Um,
God.
so yeah, and like I said, Bear, I mean, this is our friend referred you to me, from Young Catholic Spawn, Bill Snyder, told me about you, said, hey, get Bear on the show. He has this great book out, just released, and you gotta get him on the show. So been
Yeah, I love Bill
connecting.
Snyder. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love Bill Snyder. Good man.
he sure is. And so I'm like, yeah, let's get him on. And so yeah, basically, Bear, let's just start off with, I mean, again, you kind of sent me a couple of things on the book. Just kind of tell us the story behind the book, what inspired you to write it. Was this more of a long-term process, or was it just kind of like, last couple of years, hey, I'm gonna write a book about manliness?
Yeah, you know what? It's my third book, and
Okay,
my first book was A Surfing Guide to the Soul,
okay,
and my second one was Deep Virtue, The Way of Heroic Virtue. So I started more and more getting into more manly subjects.
sure,
And so I had this idea for this book on rules for manliness. But my wife and I were riding along Diamond Head over here a few years ago, and she heard this song on the radio, and she said, "You're gonna love this song." And she turned it up, and it's Paula Cole singing, "Where is my John Wayne? Where have all the cowboys gone?" So the book is 12 Rules for Manliness. Where have all the cowboys gone? Because it kind of when you think about cowboys, you think about grit, and
right,
fortitude. And so I brought together, someone said the other day, he doesn't know many books where you bring together Aquinas and Augustine and Louis L'Amour, the great Western writer. Getting quotes
really,
from
yeah,
him too. Yeah, he was up from you. He was up from, I think, uh, Jamestown, I think, North Dakota. So he was up there near
right.
you guys. And all of his books, his cowboys were virtuous, and also the women were very strong in his books. So yeah, so I mingle scripture and Aquinas and Louis L'Amour quotes into the book.
Awesome, yeah. I mean, we hear Aquinas and all that. That really gets my ear, and I'm sure gets a lot of people's ears up there as well. And
Yeah,
like you said, I mean, I watch a lot of westerns, man, and that's what you think of a cowboy, the grit. It's yeah, that's
yeah, and a
why
lot of those westerns were based on Louis L'Amour novels. A
sure.
lot of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, I know you sent me the table of contents, and for anyone listening, I mean, it's really like I said, each step it just seems like it gets deeper and deeper and richer. As I guess I would think of it. So each chapter seems to be full of different ways to, like I said, being kind of getting more grit, more manliness from, like you say, from some of the saints. Can you just kind of talk about two of your favorite chapters in the book and what they kind of mean briefly?
Well, that's the very first chapter. The very first rule is a man's got to have a code. I mean, it's a man's got to have a creed and a code he can live by. It's based on Hondo, the character Hondo, played by John Wayne in the movie Hondo, written by Louis L'Amour. And so for me, cowboys were very quick to make decisions. When the going got tough, they knew what the good course of action is, which is a definition of the virtue of prudence, which is they call it the charioteer of the virtues. It's knowing the true good and pursuing the true good. And so a cowboy kind of knew where he stood because he lived by a code. So to me, a creed is like a one sentence, maybe two sentence summary of who you are. What is your personal creed? My personal creed is that a man can have no greater pursuit than to abandon himself to the wild adventure of God's will. So that kind of defines me. Everyone should have a unique version of that. Whatever strikes their chord. I mean, Jesus' creed was probably uh, basically not my will but thy will be done to his father,
Right.
or maybe it was, and his code, the code are the rules that you apply that creed with. So maybe his code, you could say, were in the Beatitudes or in the 10 Commandments. So in the book, the very first thing a man needs to do is define him. And once you've defined how you're going to live your life and how you're going to live that life out, then decisions become very simple. So you'll see a cowboy in a difficult situation taking a very, sometimes very tough course, but he's not simple. He's not, I mean, he's not conniving, and he's not too clever. He just knows the course and he sticks to it. So that's what we need today is we need cowboys who live by a creed, who have a code. I'm actually a Benedictine Oblate. Our code is the rules of Saint Benedict, you know. So we need men like that who will live out, who will pursue a life we come factory loaded as men to be heroes, to be heroic. And the word in the word virtue is the word for man in Latin. So to be manly is to be a man of virtue. And so know what your creed is and know how you're going to live that out by writing out. Take your time to write out your code. Maybe it's 10 rules, maybe it's 20 rules, but define your creed and then define the rules you'll live by.
Right. Yeah, that's a great thing to do. And I mean, my favorite ones that I look when I was looking at the table of contents was chapter 4, Be Dangerous and Make a Stand. That sounds
Mm-hmm.
really interesting, as well as I think probably the last two as well, especially if you're a man who's seeking a relationship, wants to get married, wants to have kids. Last one, chapter 11, is how a man treats a woman defines him. Also, last chapter is the adventures of fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
So that,
Very well.
I mean, and I'm not really, I'm not like itching to get married or anything, but those just really hit me. Hey, those sound really, really good as well. So
Well,
yeah,
it takes a
great.
lot of courage for a man to get married these days.
It does.
It takes a lot of wisdom and it takes a lot of courage. That's why this book is good for women too, to help them understand this is what a man really is.
Sure.
It's really good for young women to read it, and mothers to give this to their sons and to their daughters, and for fathers to read this to their sons. But it takes a lot of courage. There was a word spoken to Joseph, and the word that was spoken to Joseph in the Bible was, "Do not be afraid to take Mary to you as your wife." And men are afraid, and maybe for good reason. These days, women seem to be off the rails sometimes, and so many marriages end in divorce. But if you live by your code and you live by your creed, you will attract the right woman, and be very sure about her. And then when you find the right woman, and you, because it used to be that people would find someone to date. Guys would go up and ask out a girl for a date, and she might say yes or say no. So I always say, don't be a coward, be a cowboy, ask the girl out. And then over the course of 6 months to a year, you should know if that woman is someone that you would want to spend the rest of your life with. I mean, if you know on the first date that's not who you are, you don't want to, then don't ask her out again. But it takes courage to be a man and to be married. And then that chapter on being dangerous, I think the most dangerous prayer of all is just to say, God, thy will be done, and really mean it. You know, I remember when I was young, I really had a tremendous conversion experience to the Lord when I was 19. And people said, oh, this guy really loves the Lord, he should be a priest. But I had already had this epiphany in my life years before that, that I wanted to be married and be a father. Like, I couldn't think of a greater thing than to be part of bringing a person, a human being into existence who would live on forever. I thought that's you know, people come up to me many times and say, you know, you ride your motorcycles around the world, you skydive, you're a pilot, you've run with the bulls, you've surfed all over the place, you sail. And they'll say, I really wish that I could live a life of adventure like you, but I have a family. And I'm like, dude, that is the greatest adventure of all, is to have children and to be a father. Now, I live my life out the way God wired me to. You know, I have this sort of unique thing, but the greatest adventure of all is to be a father and to have children. So to be a dangerous man means to have a purpose in life and pursue it. So the most dangerous prayer a man can pray is just, Lord, thy will be done. And then discern that. You know, I always like to invite people to go out to the edge of the ocean, or go up on a mountain, or go out in the wilderness someplace, or go before the Eucharist, separate themselves and just sort out for themselves. These are the kind of the desires of my heart, and how best to pursue those. And then set yourself out on that course and bite off something bigger than you can chew. Something that's going to make you grow. And that's where grit and grace come together, right? The man has grit, but we need the Holy Spirit's grace to fulfill God's mission. So I can go deeper into the area of being dangerous, but there is this Hawaiian word, Bill, that I love so much, and it's imua, I-M-U-A, imua. It means strength, it means courage, it means fortitude, it means determination, but there's an added element to that word. It means strength moving forward. So it's not just determination, it's moving forward. And so to know who you are as a man and begin to pursue you know, that course of action in your work, in your spiritual life, in your academic life, in your physical health, you know, your fitness, all of those things is what makes a man truly dangerous. And dangerous in many ways, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
I mean, Jesus, when he came, dude, he was dangerous. I mean, he came to invade this earth,
Right.
and take it from the enemy. And so be the kind of man that when you wake up in the morning, the devil says, oh no, he's up.
Right.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you
I
are
mean,
too. I can see it in you. I see it in you.
oh, great. I'm happy that you do, because some days I do, but
I
yeah.
can
So
I can see the glint in your eye, dude.
there you go.
I can see the
Awesome.
fire. Yeah, I can see
Well,
it. Yeah.
I like what you touched on there about, you know, like you said, just spending time alone, where that's wherever you find your happy place at, just spending time alone. Maybe that's in front of the Eucharist and adoration. Maybe that's
Yes.
on a mountain, by the ocean, looking at fall colors. Um, you know,
Hunting,
just
hunting,
hunting. Yep.
fishing. Yeah.
Snowshoeing, whatever, and just kind of having that time of just, you know, setting your goals. And like you said, setting high goals, setting goals to go get. You can't. It's not like a New
Yeah.
Year's Day goal, or New Year's goal that, oh, I'm going to achieve this in 2 months. You know, that's gonna be easy. No, you gotta kind of set it to the sky's the limit here.
Yeah, like you
So
starting this podcast, you could have thought about it and it never happened, but you did it and you're doing it, and it's having an impact on people's lives.
right.
And you're meeting a lot of cool people, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, people who would never
Anyone.
talk to me on my, you know, because I have a show, people will talk to me that would never talk to.
Yeah, I mean, no, me a guy named Bear, his real name's William, and he's by the ocean. How much cooler can you get? So yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I usually throw a question in Bear for, you know, just kind of I mean, I'm not really trying to do this in a bad way, but just throw a question that pops up in my head during the interview. And the question I've been having since we've been talking is, I know you told the story, behind the book and everything. I guess when you were writing the story, or excuse me, writing the book, was there anything that really stood out to you? Like, man, I didn't really think of this when I watching to write this book, or man, that's more, yeah, like that really surprised you when you're writing this book.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's a really cool question. I think
I know,
that the thing that stood out to me the most in writing this book is that chapter on being dangerous. It was like I my wife too, she said, yeah, that really stands out to pray a dangerous prayer and to live a dangerous life. And so that really was interesting, that a man really should be dangerous. And that
right,
implies a lot of things. On the spiritual level, we don't war against flesh and blood, but principalities and powers. Are you prepared to fight the spiritual battle? Do you take up the rosary and pray? Do you receive the Eucharist? Do you bless your family with holy water? Do you have a crucifix over the entrance to your house? Do you walk your land and bless it and ask God to protect it? Do you ask your guardian angel for help? Can you smell a rat? In other words, the gift of discernment, when there's a demon present, are you aware of that? And then there's the other part of being dangerous, which is to make a stand for what's right. And I know a lot of men these days. I have this deepadventure.com as my site. I'm going to say too, the book is 12 Rules for Manliness, where have all the cowboys gone? But when men join my man cave, and the School of Manliness, one of the first things a lot of the men do is they get fit. Every Saturday we post, this was my workout success and this was my spiritual workout success this week, both.
yeah,
And so they get fit enough, but some of the men in the man cave have been approached to, like, will you be on the pride committee this year? And when they say no, it's not like they get fired, but they don't get promoted anymore. So there's a certain sort of, and then there's a decision: should he stay or should he move on to something bigger and better? But are you willing to make a stand and to say, no, I know that's against my principles. It'd be against my conscience. Are you willing to go to the school board? Are you willing to become a member of the school board? Things like that, to make moral stands and to be that moral compass for your family, to be the lighthouse that doesn't move. you know, when all the world is moving tangentially across this spectrum, or do you stand and be a man? And then at the most basic level, are you willing to fight to defend yourself and your family? If someone is a danger to you and they take you out, even if your family isn't around you, that's doing harm to your family. And so people go, well, Jesus said, if someone insults you, turn the other cheek. Well, that was a custom in his day. If someone slaps your cheek, that was an insult. And not even to slap the cheek, it's just to say the insult is like slapping the cheek. But Jesus also had said to his disciples, when you go out together, be sure and bring a sword, when he sent them out. And so a man needs to be able to protect his family and protect himself, and not to go in the places where unless it's necessary, where there's harm. We have a saying here in Hawaii, murky water is sharky water. Don't go in, avoid the near occasion of sin. Keep your family away from danger. Be protective of them. That doesn't mean just go in and run in for the rescue, but why put them in harm's way in the first place? So that, I think, more than anything, that chapter, a man must be dangerous, as I began to write that, it really was. Even the statement was a surprising statement to me.
sure. No, yeah, I appreciate it. I know, like I said, I kind of threw you a profile there, but I appreciate that because, yeah, I mean, like you said, that if you, I mean, you try to avoid the going towards occasion and saying, like, one of the speakers I've had on the show before, he's like, if you can, if you know that might lead you to sin, or if you're going down the wrong path, get back on the right track, get your family back on the right
Right,
track. I mean,
right.
don't keep going down, because once you keep going down, you just go further and further and further. And then, like you said,
Yes,
if it's you, the father, the dad, the husband, the head of the household, and you bring the whole family down on it. I mean, the
yes.
greater is your sin as well. So
And as young men, Bill, it's really important that you choose your friends well.
Absolutely.
and for all men. And not only that, but make sure that you cultivate friendships and develop real brotherhood.
Right.
That's where you're going to get your strength. And you don't need 10 guys. Jesus had Peter and John. Those were his two best friends,
Right.
And then he had the disciples. He had the pack that he ran with. And, are they starting to introduce wolves into the North Woods up there in northern Minnesota yet?
A little bit. I mean, we have quite a few lying around near us or around the area.
Yeah,
But
you do.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I used to have a cabin up in Montana, and a mile from Canada, a mile from Glacier Park. So about
Oh
as
yeah.
remote as you could be. And when I bought the land, it was wild land. And I was walking into the land the first time. Of course, there was no road to get into it. And I
Right.
saw a wolf across the meadow. The very first time I entered the land, and I'm thinking, oh, there's a wolf on my land. And the way he looked at me, I realized it wasn't my land, it was his,
Right.
But he had these really uh, green, yellow. I mean, from across the meadow, I could see these eyes. And I found out later by talking to a professor from Missoula, Montana, that was a tracker of apex predators, like grizzlies and wolves and mountain lions. And I asked him about that. He said, yes, I know that wolf. That's a lone wolf. We have him radioed. He is a former alpha male that was kicked out of the pack by a younger man. And he's a lone wolf, and he's going to die young. He'll probably get disease because he can't feed himself. It takes a pack to bring down the animal, And that's the nature of these men that say, well, I'm a lone wolf. I don't need anybody. I don't need brothers. I'm a lone wolf. Well, that man's going to be spiritually lacking and morally, spiritually, and physically. I'm not saying in every way, but quite probably he's setting himself up for a fall. But when you have one or two brothers that you get together with and have a cigar and a shot of whiskey once a week, or you go to breakfast with and have those. I remember those fall days. I worked there for 4 years in Minnesota, and for
Right.
fall, one fall I worked up in Longville,
Yep.
and I'm telling you, when the temperature hit, I think when the temperature got to 10 degrees, I headed south. I wasn't
Really.
man enough. But I remember going into the little diner there in Longville, and there was coffee and there was donuts, and these tough men sitting in there, with their jackets on, and you open up the door and it's just like the whole room gets cold. And so the
Yeah.
inside is overheated, and they're drinking their coffee, and you don't pay the cashier for the coffee or donuts. You just put money in the basket,
Right.
Those guys were brothers, and they held each other to a standard. Cowboys have what they call the cowboy code, and they held each other, challenged each other, encouraged each other to live by a standard. And so we need brothers like that, where we can get gritty and we can get real and just say, hey, dude, I need your help in this area. A lot of men are fighting the battle, and they really need to learn how to win the battle with pornography. And that's one of the great things brotherhood does, is it just encourages men, in that good fight. I mean, younger men these days are under full on attack in that area. You must win that. You can win it, and you will. Men who are listening, you can win it. You will win it. You must win it. And you do that through prayer, spending time with God, and you do that by having good brothers that will encourage you.
Right. And then, I mean, there's a lot of great programs, lots of great things out there. I mean, I know Exodus 90 has gotten really big in all parishes in the past couple of years.
Yes.
We got a new pastor, so he's really brought that full steam.
Good.
That's a
Good.
great thing to do. Also
Yeah.
just, I mean, again, if you get along great, and there's some really great guys from college, keep in touch with them. I met
Yeah.
a lot of great guys in college. Still
Where'd
keep
you
in
go to
touch with them.
college? Though? Where'd you go to college?
Ridgewater College in Wilmore, Minnesota.
Oh, beautiful.
So yeah, very. Like I said, it's you can tell there's a few times it was like, okay, this is not really the best for it's not really what my faith believes or teaches. But
Yeah.
like I said, I met a lot of great guys there. One great Catholic guy as well. He's been on the show. But yeah, like you said, it's find those guys and
Well,
keep it
what Thomas Aquinas defined an effeminate man as a man who seeks pleasure. And
right.
so when you give yourself to that type of stuff, pornography or drinking or drugs or gaming or whatever, you become weak, and you become weaker and weaker and weaker. And so the route to being, John Wayne said, a boy's got to become a man, and you do that by taking on responsibility. In Hawaii, we have a word kuleana. It means my responsibility, but it also means It's like I own this, like you own your farm, you own your ranch. It's your responsibility, but you own it. And that's what kuleana means. It's I own this. This is my kuleana. It's a treasure to have responsibility. And it's only by man taking on responsibility that can become a man. And John Paul II wrote right off the bat, his first things he wrote were love and responsibility. And we need men to stop being cowards and not the younger men, they have a real challenge asking women out. And then you have so many of them just say, well, if you really love me, you would go to bed with me.
Yeah.
They totally neglect the responsibility of a man to treasure a woman. My wife, I treasure her so much. I'm so fortunate to have found my wife. We met tandem surfing.
Really?
I'm a world champion. I lift her when we surf.
Yep.
And I met her tandem surfing. We've been married. We just celebrated our anniversary 6 years now. And
Nice.
and my job when I tandem surf with her is to protect her and to lift her. And when I lift her, she displays her beauty and her power and her grace. But that's my job, is to choose the wave. So I'm taking leadership, I'm protecting her, and I'm lifting her. And men need to lift women. We need to be a foundation for them to jump off from and to flourish. So, man, when you don't just settle for the woman, but man, you need to find a good woman, if that's what God's calling you to, and then cherish them and love on them. And I'm going to go back to that first verse I shared, that the angel said to Joseph, do not be afraid to take Mary to you as your wife. Don't be afraid, men, to be married. Choose wisely, but don't be afraid to be married. Be coraggio, be courageous.
Right, absolutely. Great advice there, Bear. And but we only got about 5 minutes left here on the show. I guess I'll kind of intertwine these two. Just kind of briefly, like in a couple minutes, what should men do to take this plan? Because from the weaning plan, what you've been talking about, to what's in the book, into action. Because I mean, I know a lot of people read the Bible, and they might think, I want to live that way, I want to live this way, and they don't really apply it to their lives, or not as fast as I like. So how can people turn it from a weaning plan into an action plan?
I could almost show you.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't have it quite here, but I always have. Well, I have leather bound blank books. They're that color. I have dozens of them. And so when I get a little inkling about something that I think the Lord may be calling me to do, I write about it in there.
Okay.
And then I discern on it. So I always know the next thing. Like when I developed my TV show Long Ride Home, the motorcycle TV show on EWTN, I had an inkling about that. I began to write about it in my little brown book. And then you discern on it. Well, and by the way, let your dreams get big and let them get wild, and let them get a little bit dangerous, and let them be something that you have to grow to become. And then you discern on it. And then comes the blue notebook.
Yeah.
This blue notebook, these are magic for me because they have a pocket on the inside, a pocket on the inside, front and back. And I label it and I go, Long Ride Home, season 1. And I begin to put tabs in it and I fill out, okay, what's the map we're going to go on? What equipment do we need? What men should I invite on the ride? What's the theme of it going to be? And you begin to develop a plan, because God has plans for us.
Yeah.
I know what I have in store for you, plans for peace, not destruction, a future reserved for you, full of hope. And Jesus said these words, even now the Father and I, we work. So God has work for us. And he has a plan for the men and women that are listening. God has a plan, and you get to figure that out. God has a great adventure for every single person. And so begin to just, and then what you do is you begin to pursue that, because it used to be we'd have you ever driven a car that didn't have power steering? Back in the day, my first car didn't have power steering, and you couldn't turn that wheel unless you were moving. How can God guide you if you're just sitting on the couch?
Right.
God wants you to just kick. What do they do? Extend the left boot of fellowship, kick you in the butt, and say, get up and get going. And then as you move, as he said it says, the word is a lamp unto my feet. Well, why would it be there if you're not moving? So as you move, God will guide you. So finding your looking at the way God wired you. Everybody comes kind of wired in a different way, your desires. And find out by the way, the word desire means to look up at the stars. What is God drawing me to? What are you drawn to? Not what are you pushed by? You don't want your passions to push you. You want to be led by the new and right desires God puts in your heart. And then find one and isolate it and develop that detailed plan, and then begin to pursue it and watch God have that flourish and develop. And my dad used to say, God writes in pen, we write in pencil. So get ready to erase it and fix it, but pursue it. And everyone here listening right now knows at least one or two or three things that they know are on their heart, and that then why not take that action today?
Absolutely. Yeah, great advice, bro. Absolutely. That's a great way to put from a winging plan, picking of a plan into action. Absolutely. So about 30 seconds here, bro. Just briefly talk about your show. How can people find you?
Well, they can find me at deepadventure.com, and there you can find all my books. You can find out about our TV show, Long Ride Home, and then my radio show, The Bear Woznick Adventure, which is also on EWTN. And I just want to affirm you, Bill. I could see the fire in you, and thank you so much for what you're doing. And we're proud of this younger generation. We're excited to see what you're going to do to turn this boat around.
Yeah,
It's up to you guys. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, I thank you for that, Bear. And like I said, that's what we need to hear, because again, I mean, we don't really see ourselves some days, and we're out of service, and we just need words and encouragement like that. So thank you for that, and thank you for again spending your time to come on the show with us today.
I'm proud of this younger generation. You guys are gonna reset the course of the world for us. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, everyone, that's Bear Woznick again. Go check out him on EWTN. Also, I'll have his links up in the description box, so go check him out. And until we meet again, stay in the state of grace, stay in sacraments, put that reading plan into an action plan, and get his book for a loved one or for yourself today, especially during this upcoming holiday season. All right, everyone. God bless. See you next week. God willing. This is Catholic People Talk Podcast, the podcast where everything Catholic is on the table.